Happy New Month, everyone. Thanks so much for joining this conversation. My name is Fred, Fred, CEO and founder of Belva Digital, an award-winning digital technology agency. This is our quarantine webinar, episode 7. It's a bit of woohoo there. It's been exciting. I think we started this in April. The agenda really was to help our brands survive and thrive, during this period of great uncertainty. It's been an absolute joy. I think seeing folks here, we've never missed the sessions. So thank you so much. The interaction has been really nice. I believe we've had a great list of speakers, and today is no exception. We invited Justin Anyona. He's a man of many hats. I think trained as a mechanical engineer, or electrical engineer.
Electrical, in my previous life.
The previous life, hustled as a journalist. And I think for the last 10 plus years has been doing his magic as a brilliant digital media thinker. Currently agency relations manager at Google. And I believe you are probably one of the longest serving staff members in Google Kenya and Google Africa.
Thanks, Fred. I feel like that introduction made me sound very old. I'm not as old as Fred with my white hair. It would make me look. Let me just share my screen so we can kick off.
Okay.
Cool.
That's it.
So I'm looking at my presentation. I can't see the rest of the panelists. So if there's anything, Fred, just let me know because you can't see my presentation. But yeah, thanks everyone for making the time. We know it's a crazy time, so I don't take your time for granted at all. So what we thought we'd cover today is, it's obviously a very uncertain time. I think I get a lot of questions from clients, from agencies, how should we be thinking about this? How should we try and pivot what we're doing with advertising and marketing with this new reality? So we put together a couple of slides to talk about that. And then like Fred said, I'd love to hear your perspectives and opinions, and let's open it up and just discuss after this presentation. Cool. So in terms of the content for the next half an hour, we've done this exercise globally where we've looked at the clients that we work with and tried to segment them in these 4 buckets: challenge, assessing, pivoting, investing. And the point is to look at what's been sort of like the impact of COVID on different businesses. How are they trying to recover from that? And based on those sort of like what we see with those different clients, we put them in these 4 different buckets. I'll explain what they are. And the recommendations we've given for how to manage your online marketing are divided in these 4 buckets, right? So we have different recommendations for challenge, assessing, pivoting, etc. So we'll cover that in the first section. Then that will be useful to also look at your creatives and content. How should we be thinking about creatives and content in this time? And then finally, I don't know if this is top of mind for you and your clients, if you're from agency, but some clients are not happy to appear, for example, against COVID-related content, right? Brand suitability, I think, has been a big topic of conversation lately. I think you've seen stories in the press in the last 1 week about social media and hate speech and the content. So I think brands are super sensitive about what do they appear next to against. So we'll have a section where we talk about brand suitability in relation to COVID, right? So that will be the last section. I guess if there are any questions like on chat or whatever, Fred will just read them out to me. Cool. So like I mentioned, we're seeing these 4 broad customer use cases. Obviously, the caveat is that it's affecting different people in very many different ways. And this is an attempt to try and put different businesses in this buckets. So first is challenge, and these are clients who have been significantly impacted by COVID. When I think of challenge, the first example that comes to mind is travel, right? Airlines, hotels, etc. The very challenge, the struggling. They are, it's COVID has hit them really hard. Then the second bucket is assessing. So it's a significant situation for clients in this bucket, but it's not existential. They're not declaring bankruptcy. They're not maybe laying off people. They might be thinking about pulling back from marketing, because that's typically what you do when cash flows aren't coming in. But they're kind of open to having those discussions, right? And I think in that bucket, ROI is very important. Am I getting proper return on what I'm investing at this moment, right? Then we have clients who are pivoting. So an example here I keep thinking about would be restaurants, right? So all along your entire life, your main business has been seating customers, but now you're having to pivot to take away, or banks, you're trying to think of how do I pivot from people walking into my branch to more, cards and mobile money and online banking, etc. So we'll also look at some recommendations for businesses in that bucket for pivoting. Then investing will be people who, I guess a classic example would be the platform you're using right now, Zoom. They're thriving in these times. They're looking to continue investing, expand their customer relationships. They're still focused on growth. So we'll also look at some recommendations for people in that bucket. Cool. So starting off with challenge. So like I explained, the people who are significantly impacted by the situation, they're experiencing both supply and demand reductions. You're not getting in stock from China like you used to. Demand is down. We're not traveling, etc. A lot of them will be in the bucket of we're not spending at all. But if they're spending, they're really looking to get proper ROI for the investment. So what do we recommend for challenged customers? So first, it's that try to use whatever, and I'll speak about some of them shortly, but try to use whatever tools you can to just understand shifts in demand, right? Maybe people are not traveling as much as they used to at all, but is there something else they're doing instead in that space, in travel, right? Are there any opportunities for you to maybe move from 100% challenge to more pivoting, right? So what tools can you use? What sort of insights can you start gleaning? Just as we prepare, want to get out of this, but even in this time, what can you do, right? Then we look at how do you, if you're still investing, if you're still advertising, how can you try to maximize your value? What you're getting out of your advertising, your marketing, and also how you can analyze trends, right? Just to understand user behavior in these times. I'll give a couple of examples of like some of the work we've done using tools to understand the shifts in demand and changes in user behavior. This is an example for an airline industry we work with, and the question was, we know that obviously demand for flights has gone down significantly. But how significant is that? Is it totally off? Are these people pivoting to maybe searching for something else instead of flights, right? And when you look at, for example, the past 84 days, I found it interesting that while obviously there's this sharp decline around March, the demand is not zero, right? We still had about 70,000 queries from Eastern Africa, people looking for flights to Western Europe, right? So then the discussion here was, if you're still seeing a bit of demand, do you want to be totally off, or do you want to be thinking about how do I speak to these customers, maybe offer them more flexibility now they can book for their tickets, like zero cancellation fees, maybe your ticket can be valid for longer, but should you be thinking about the 70,000 queries over the past 84 days? And I found this interesting as well, that when we look at it in terms of week on week and month on month changes in the volume of queries. You see how much green there is on month and week on week, right? So while there's that sharp decline month on month, week on week, it's starting to come back. So again, just food for thought, like what should I do? And I found this really interesting as well, that people can't travel, but then they really, I think it's, if I can't physically go there, I can actually sit at my computer or phone and just admire that beach that I've been lying down on, right? So 20x, a 20x increase in virtual tour queries since March. So again, just food for thought, that what can you be doing in that space? Because maybe there's a demand for hotel rooms and flights, but there's demand for other things. Right. So what do we recommend then for people who are challenged? So one is that just check this time when potentially you're off or not doing as much as you could be, to focus on your account hygiene and campaign structure. Oh, sorry, if I could just explain a bit, what I'd like to do with this presentation is to be very practical, right? So it's stuff that I want you to be able to take out and apply, like in whatever you're doing in Google. So you'll notice I've tried to make it as practical as possible. Like what notes can you take down and potentially then implement tomorrow. So yeah, so one is during this time of focus on your account hygiene, campaign structure, best practice, potentially think of segmenting your ad groups, based on conversion values and user attributes. If you want to think about new users versus existing users differently for different creatives, etc. You want to put those like in separate ad groups, right? Do you want to, for example, maybe separate out your remarketing campaigns in different ad groups so you have more control on budgets, etc. creatives, and then this last bit just reminds you to focus on the entire campaign as opposed to really going into ad groups. But yeah, try and segment, try and think about the different users, the different values they have to you, the different ways you'd want to speak to them. Will you want to, for example, just focus your activities on existing customers who are of value to the business, right? So have those maybe in different ad groups and different campaigns. Also take this time, if you have any people who do sort of like a bit of search. I don't know if you've noticed or heard this, but more and more we are encouraging our clients not to be very granular. So previously, if you read on Skillshop or if you've done search in the past, the recommendation is always to be very granular with your campaigns and ad groups, right? Have no more than maybe 10 keywords per ad group, very specific copy for that ad group. But with machine learning and artificial intelligence, we're seeing all that's not necessary anymore. Have fewer ad groups, larger ad groups, then use responsive search ads, and then what the machine will do is at the point of displaying the ad, it will automatically combine different assets from the responsive ad and show the best ad, right? So no need to be very granular about how you run your search campaigns. So then in this time, as you're pausing or pulling back on the activity, it will be a good time to then think about how do I start consolidating my traffic in fewer, larger ad groups, if that makes sense. Right, and then now using smart bidding to pull in all that machine learning stuff so that it helps you do more with less, to be honest. Then dynamic searches are really good for maximizing your coverage, increasing your reach. Might be a good time to look at how do I then put them in my campaigns and ad groups. I've just talked about responsive search ads, but I think they're really great. It's a great way to do more with less. So, just put in all your assets, then let the machines and AI do the heavy lifting of showing the right creative to the right person. Then in terms of just managing volatility and your budgets, I really like this recommendation of use shared budgets. So instead of allocating budgets, very specific budgets by campaign, and you're not sure what sort of volumes you'll see, why don't you do a shared budget across your campaigns? Then what the system will do is, depending on what those fluctuations are, automatically allocate budgets. Yeah. So that will be sort of on the Google Ads side. But if you're using DV360, the equivalent tool is auto budget allocation, right? So look at that and let it help you manage your budgets. Then I don't know how many of you, but Fred, are we okay? And do you have everyone on? You can hear me fine, right?
I can hear you fine. I know it's difficult when you're faceless, but I can hear you clearly.
Perfect. Cool. Then I don't know how many of you know about this way of bidding, pay for conversions, but I guess historically, typically you'd pay for clicks or whatever, but we have this newish, it's been there for maybe a year or so, where you can only pay for conversion. So you go in and tell Google that, you know what, I'll pay you $5 for every ticket you sell or whatever, right? And I think, if you're in that challenge, every cent counts piece, I think it's a really efficient ROI positive way to think of your advertising, right? Because you're only paying for shoes sold or tickets sold or TV sold or whatever it is, right? So you go in and put in an amount and say, you know what, give me conversions at $5, and then for each conversion, I'll pay you that $5. So yeah, so it's definitely something to think about. Location targeting. So, in some places your supply chain might be disrupted. And, if you've been on the Google Ads or DV360 platform lately, you must have noticed, you can target by town or by county. It could even be more granular than that. So, we use that to make adjustments about where you're showing your ads. And then I think we keep singing about audiences, but I don't think we use them enough here. I think audiences can be a really powerful way to basically prioritize who you want to speak to, right? So if you know you want to really reduce your activity, why not maybe, for example, still speak to people who you have in your CRM, who you know are your regular customers. So maybe don't speak to the entire world, upload your first party data through Customer Match, for example, or remarketing, and then just speak to that segment. So instead of being totally off, you could try and slice and dice your audience and see who might be relevant to speak to, right? And you could, of course, always expand that audience. Yeah, so what I've tried to do here is to include sort of resources, things. So when Fred shares the deck after the call, there'll be sections after each, there'll be a slide, I should say, after each section, where you can go in and just, all the things I've been talking about that you could try, the tools, etc. There'll be links to them here. So just if you want to do stuff around it, there'll be links, resources that you can use. Cool. Then the second section is assessing. So it thought, like I mentioned earlier, it's not existential for them, but obviously when cash flows are tight, people think of pulling back for marketing, think of cutting costs. They may be experiencing some supply and demand and certain disruptions. right? So what do we recommend for this? I'll try and flip through. I will share the deck so you can have all the granular recommendations. But one things like think of if your opening hours are disrupted, right? Like they were for restaurants, for example. Do you want to use ad scheduling, right? So that you only show ads during the times that you actually open. I don't know how many of you, use Google My Business. The GMB, the one boxes that show like your location, your opening hours, your reviews, etc. Make sure that you've gone in, updated your new opening hours, and then if you're running ads, make sure that you're using ad scheduling to match that. Again, staff on budgets. So, like I mentioned earlier, you might want to use shared budgets so that where we see more activity or less activity, we can automatically move budgets around to fit that. Plus other recommendations here. You might also want to think about pivoting or changing your bidding to more, raw CPA kind of bidding, where you're actually certain about the ROI that you're getting back from your advertising. Target CPA is recommended. Usually we recommend that you think of the budgets in terms of 10x of the target CPA, but we'll share the budgets. Please look through all this. Audiences, again, I can't overemphasize how important audiences are, just so that one, you speak to different segments differently, and then two, you may just want to focus on certain audiences, maybe your first party, regular customers, whatever it is. So look at your audiences, use Google Ads predefined reports to analyze how different audiences perform, and then make that decision from there. The equivalent in DV360 is standard offline reporting. That can really give you insights into how different in-market or affinity or first-party audiences are performed for you, right? And then use that to drive your performance. I'll spend some time as well on this. Remember, in assessing, you're really trying to cut down on unnecessary cost. You really want to make sure that you're getting proper ROI. And that will also depend a lot on how your landing page is and the performance on the landing page, right? So our recommendations for assessing around your landing page is one, don't have a cluttered landing page. Make sure your landing page focuses on a single goal that's promoted with a very descriptive call to action above the fold. What do you want people to do on that page, right? Then make sure your CTA stands out. Make sure you have a clear value proposition that you communicate well. Avoid distractions and disruptions. And I see this all the time. Like you want that nice flashy image on your landing page that has a carousel and sliders and all that stuff, but it's just distracting at the end of the day. So be very focused and clear on what you want to do. Search bars, if you have a search bar, don't hide it behind a search icon. Make sure it's front and center, it's clear this is a search bar. If you have forms, make sure you use validation, autofill, make it easy for people. Right? And we usually see these tips, result in a really significant increase in your conversion rates, right? So again, just time to, I think through what you're doing, evaluate it, and make these improvements. So again, like I said, after each section, these key resources. So if you're wondering how to update your business hours that reflect on Google, there'll be a link for that. If you're wondering how to pull like a report on how your different audiences are doing, either on DV360 or just on normal Google Ads, display ads, the links to that as well. Then I'll just rush through this, but then I know we don't have that much time. So pivoting, like I mentioned earlier, it's people who are sort of shifting to new business areas or new priorities. So they need to understand, what's that you're pivoting to, what are the trends and behaviors in those new segments, how should I be thinking differently about my advertising, right? How do I maintain volumes of what I currently have, etc. So again, there's lots and lots of recommendations here from audiences. Generally, you also see that clients in this space will have a lot more time on their hands. But then you're not certain about making any big changes to your strategy. So, what can you be doing with that extra time? Optimizing your account structure, working on your smart bidding and auto bidding, working on audiences. And then again, the key resources, then for investing to people who are, like I mentioned, that still eager to connect, still focused on growth. Brand safety is obviously top of mind for them, that they want to keep investing, but in a brand safe way. So what we recommend for them, one is, there can be a lot that you can potentially do, but how do you prioritize and know what's most important and what will have the most impact? Right? So we'll talk a bit about that. We'll also talk a bit about maximizing your coverage. So how do you make sure that you're doing the most you can, most efficiently, right? So I don't know how many of you know about OptiScore, optimization score, but it's one of the tabs like in your Google Ads account. And I really love OptiScore. It surfaces what we feel are the most important optimizations to do on your account, right? So it's a really useful way to prioritize what will have the most impact. So it will give suggestions on everything from keyword expansion to audiences, to what you can opt into, smart campaigns, to how you can think about different bidding strategies, how you can increase your conversion rates, even look at your landing pages and look at are there any slow ones, what can you improve on. So highly recommended to keep an eye on your optimization score, and just it's a good way to prioritize what's important. And my recommendation typically is to get your score to at least 95%. Yeah. Then the equivalent in DV360, if you use that instead, is the optimization view. So that will deep dive into different analysis of what you can do to improve. Yeah. Then in terms of maximizing coverage, it's your time to reap, right? Sunshine. So how do you make sure that you're doing the most that you can, right? So we suggest that one, the system will usually give you a recommended target CPA based on past, I guess, what you've seen in the past. And we recommend typically that your budget should be at least 10x of the target CPA. So look out for the target CPA, then maybe try and adjust your budget around that. We have lots of tools that can help you try to figure out what's the size of the pie, right? So a really good one is Performance Planner. There'll be a link for that at the end of that section. So look at Performance Planner, look at what is it forecasting in terms of activity and volume coming up in the next 1 week, 1 month, etc. It also takes even seasonality into account. It will know that there's Black Friday coming up, etc. So a really good way to plan Performance Planner. Rich Planner has rolled out as well. It's available in your Google Ads with DV360 for Kenya. A really good way to get a feeling for like what's the reach on YouTube, what's the reach on display. If I slice and dice that into different audiences, what's the reach for that? If I want to work at a certain frequency, what sort of budget should I be thinking about? What are the reach curves? So, reach plan, I think it's a really useful way to try and make sure that you're maximizing your coverage and speaking to everyone that you could be speaking to. Yeah. Use your audiences. I think that goes without saying. Custom intent, look at expanding those audiences using these other different audience types in market, live events, custom intent. Combine those audiences if you want to. So yeah, basically I think the point is to have a robust audience strategy. I think there's a lot you could say about it. If you notice it keeps cropping up in these different sections. I don't know, and maybe Fred, when you're sending out the decks, I'll include like just a deck as well, a PDF or something on the different audiences we have and how we could use them in different situations for your business.
But that'll be great.
Yeah, if you don't have an audience strategy for your brand, your business, you really should think about it. It's useful. Cool. I won't go too much into this. I love this as well for investing customers. I don't know what your feeling is about how print and out of home and even TV is doing, but at least if I speak about YouTube, for example, we've seen such a what's the word? An increase in consumption, right? If you compare, for example, March and now, YouTube is growing like a weed. It's growing at almost 60, 70, 80% year on year, right? And even the current numbers, I think we are maybe about 7.5 million users per month, and growing at that really fast rate. So if you're investing and you're keen on reaching customers, but then maybe you're not able to reach them as efficiently now on TV and print, then think of shifting more to things like TV and connected to YouTube. I mean, and even connected TV on YouTube, right? We're seeing that growing really fast. So there are different ways in which you can sort of like access premium connected TV inventory. You can do TV bid multipliers on TrueView. The different programmatic deals you can do on the 360 just to reach connected TVs, the different packages, or you can even just do on the open auction, you could target connected TVs only, for example. But I'm not saying only do connected TVs, but it's one place you could think of as a replacement for the reach that you're using on TV. But I think even on mobile, you're still seeing a lot of increases in reach. So yeah, think of it. Then I'll talk, so these are the resources. Like I said, we'll share the deck and you can have a look at them.
Justin, just a time check. I'm giving you 4 more minutes.
Okay, I'll jump through this, but this is just on reviewing your creatives and looking at what's working for you and looking at like the messaging around COVID and how you want to think about it. But even before that, you want to look at, for the things I have now, how are they performing? So you have really different reports that you can run to look at your creative performance. So really important. We talked about landing pages, so look at that as well. Then on brand suitability, so as I mentioned earlier when you're starting the call, the point here is, okay, if I'm still investing, if I'm still running my ads, but given this difficult times, there's content, this COVID content that you might not want to be appear against, this stuff on Black Lives Matter or hateful speech, whatever it is. Different brands have different appetites, I guess, for how much risk they can take. So I think my what I encourage you to do here is, one, be clear about what your brand stability, brand safety strategy is. What am I sensitive on? What am I willing to compromise on, right? And then based on that, we'll find the right approach for your brand. Because I think the balance also is that sometimes if you're too strict about what you don't want to appear against, then maybe your reach will be hampered, right? In Kenya, for example, I think if you say you don't want to be next to political content, we consume a lot of political content, so that limits your reach. So that's a balance, right? So I think once you think through what's my approach to brand suitability, I'll talk about some tools that you can use to then make sure you have that control, right? So for example, if you're okay with some COVID content, then what you want to think about is sensitive categories in DV360 or content exclusions in Google Ads, right? For tragedy and conflict. But then if you're not okay with any COVID content, for example, then you want to exclude health conditions, infectious diseases as a category, both on DV360 and Google Ads, right? If again you're like super sensitive and you have like a list of keywords that you absolutely don't want to appear against, you can use negative keywords as well for that, right? Sometimes you don't want to appear next to content that hasn't been classified yet, right? So again, we have digital content labels for content not yet rated that you want to tick and say, if it's not being looked at, I don't want to be on it. Yeah. Then there'll be some additional considerations like for discovery ads. I hope you guys know what those are. But yeah, you can look through them on the deck. And those are the different ways you can do it. Again, those are the resources. And yes, thank you.